All right. So now we both are from the state of Texas, and there are two really large bills or two bills that have been getting a lot of attention. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and if you could just kind of talk to us a little bit about it. But parents, as you're watching this, even if you're not from the state of Texas, we just want you to be aware because something similar to this could actually be coming to your state as well. And we just want you to kind of be aware of what's going on in other areas.
All right, Rita. So I'm gonna give a little information. Now, listen, I am not the bill guru or anything or the political guru, but I just want to give parents some information on what we call Texas Senate Bill 2 and House Bill 2. And they have really been in the public light here lately. And the legislative session, the House of Representatives and the Senate, they are meeting on both, and you'll hear them back and forth. And there may be some confusion because they both end in two, but one was originated by a Texas House of Representative, and one was initiated by a Texas senator. So that's why House Bill 2 and Senate Bill 2. So Senate Bill 2 is basically what they're calling the Educational Savings Account Bill, ESA program, which would allow parents to take taxpayer dollars to a private school tuition. And you basically would take public funding and move it away from the public school with Senate Bill 2. So it's kind of like families could use state funds to pay for private tuition, textbooks, transportation, therapy, other expenses. And I know they're setting up a vendor program where vendors can apply to be a vendor in the education savings account. And the bill is allowing, it says the bill provides $10,000 per student annually for private school tuition and $11,500 for students with disabilities. Well, what I want to say to parents is when you take your child out of public school and go to private schools do not have to follow federal and state special education laws. So there's no IDEA, there's no Section 504. And realize 11,500 is not a lot of money. I've heard that could go up to 30,000. Like I said, I know I'm not an expert in the bill. I know for a general ed student that $10,000 is the number. But I've heard like this 11,500. I've heard 30,000 for students with disabilities. Even at 30,000, that's not going to cover a year of tuition at a private school for students with disabilities. In the state of Texas, those tuitions, depending on what grade your child is running between 30 to 50,000. So the average cost is about 40. So if they're only giving you 11,500, even if they're giving you 30, you got to come up with that other 10 or $20,000.
Mm-hmm.
It does say it can be used for textbooks, transportation, therapy, and other expenses. I know more things will come out, but it has been tagged as the voucher bill. It is going to be signed. It has passed the House and the Senate, so it's on the governor's desk. So that one will be signed. That's House Bill, Senate Bill 2. And so, says private schools accepting ESA funding must post a notice they are not required to comply with federal special education laws. So, in the state of Texas, even homeschool is considered private placement like private school. So, if you take your child out and you take the funds, which you're not going to pay for a whole year of schooling, that 11,500, 30,000, you're going somewhere that does not have to follow federal special education laws, which means they're not going to follow state special education laws. So that's Senate Bill 2. House Bill 2 is supposed to help with school funding. It's supposed to allot 7.7 billion over the 2 years. So it's supposed to increase the basic student allotment, which is the base funding that each district spends on a student per year. And it's supposed to update our special education funding formulas. It's supposed to help with, it says it retains current law regarding teacher salaries. Don't know if there's a teacher salary increase in that bill, but the big part of the bill was to increase public school funding and to improve the special education funding formulas. So those are the two big bills. You may hear them interchangeably. You may think, oh, it's the same because they both end in two, but one is House Bill 2, one is Senate Bill 2. Senate Bill 2 will be signed into law. He is going to sign it. Our governor is going to sign it. That's the educational savings account, which bill, which is called the ESA program. And then House Bill 2 is the public school funding. And a big part of that is to redo the special education funding formulas.
So
So
with the first bill, have you heard anything or seen anything as it relates to, let's say you have a parent that's already doing homeschool with a special education kiddo, are they able to take advantage of those funds? And then what impact is that?
do not know. I do not know that. I do not know if you're already in private placement. Can you get those funds? I'm pretty sure more specifics will come out. I just know that it is going to be signed, and you can take public funds and go to and use it for private schools. So the reason why this bill was getting so much slack is especially for parents of students with that do not have an IEP. Say you're already paying for private school, you're already paying your $40,000.
Mm-hmm.
You could take the 10,000 and get it and apply it and save yourself 10,000. So people are upset saying it's benefiting the people who can already afford private school. Basically, they get to save their 10,000 because they get the 10,000 from the state. So that's why
Right.
there was so much uproar. It's not going to help the people who truly need it because a parent who say you take that 11.5, your student with a disability, say it's your child's a disability, it's 11.5. Say private school costs 30,000. Where are you going to get the difference?
Yeah.
Do you have the funds to get the difference?
Yeah.
So that's what they were saying. It's already the bill only benefits people who can afford private school because now they're saving money.
Yeah. So it's
So
something for the parent to just consider, as they're passing that bill. It may, 10,000, 11,500 may seem like a lot, but when you do the research to make
no,
sure it's not going to be enough to cover those private school costs. And then the other thing that I heard you say is that they do not necessarily abide by
they
those.
do not have to. Private schools do not have to because they don't receive federal funds. But now they can get this voucher receive money, but they still do because they don't receive federal funds. They do not have to abide by federal special education laws. So they may have. I've worked with parents in private school. They have something called support plans, but it won't be called an individualized education program. It's not an IEP. It doesn't have to be called an IEP.
Yeah.
And there may not be speech services and physical therapy and OT. So they may get you and say, oh, small class size. And there are private schools just for kids with disabilities who
Right.
will have all of those services, but they cost $30,000, $40,000. And
Yeah.
you're 11.5 or you're 30,000. So say you do get 30,000. It costs 40,000. Where are you gonna get, do you have the means to come up with the difference?
Yeah. So as parents are, as you're making those decisions, you just want to be aware of what your options are, but you also want to be aware of what you're getting once you make that decision
And what you're losing.
and what you're losing once you make that decision.
Yes.
So, like you said, a lot of things are very different in the private school environment than it is in traditional school environment. And you have to make the best decision for your child, but don't jump too soon. Think about it, and really
Yes.
review all of your options in detail and then ask questions if you have questions before you
I
make
mean,
it.
you can go into the Texas legal scan, I think it is, and Senate Bill 2 should be finalized, which is the one that's going to be signed. I know House Bill 2, as of last week or earlier this week, there were still some things that we're working on.
Mhm.
But I would, wait at least maybe until July. Usually, when I go to the Texas Parent to Parent Conference, which is mid July to sometimes the 1st of August this year, it's mid July. Texas, Disability Rights Texas always sends their policy lawyer. His name's Steve Alamon, and he always gives us an update on which laws have passed. So that's how I know exactly what has passed because it's hard to keep up. You can Google and this article will say this one will say that. I mean, you go on it's called Legal Scan, and you can see the bills, the Texas bills. But I usually wait until I go to Texas Parent to Parent Conference, and he's the policy lawyer for Texas Parent to Parent, and he gives us an update on which laws have passed, how they're going to be implemented, what date. Most of them usually start September 1st when laws are passed of that year. So just make sure your Google is our friend, and sometimes it's not our friend. Too much
That's right.
information. So you want to make sure you're getting information from reputable sources. And legal bills are hard to read. You
Yeah.
know, and even though I look at laws all the time, I still have to read stuff 2 or 3 times to understand. So that's the reason I love it that Steve comes to Texas Parent to Parent and he bravely breaks it down in parent friendly language. And then that
Mhm.
allows me to be able to tell my clients and break it down because he also, gives a document we can reference and things like that. So just be aware, even if you're not in the state of Texas, you don't have anything like this in your state, when one state does something, other states try to do it. If your child goes to private school, anytime in their educational career, a private school does not have to follow special education laws unless they accept special education federal funds. There are incidents where private schools do get federal funds. So you have to ask, do you get federal funds? If they do not get federal funds, which most of them don't, they do not have to follow federal laws.
And I think that's really key. So, like she said, make sure you ask the right questions. Make sure you take the time to really understand what works best for your child. Earlier, we talked about what you should be doing at the end of the year, gathering all of that documentation. Now we're telling you about some of the different legislative changes that are happening. And as we get ready to wrap up, we want to just share with all of this information and all the changes that are happening. Shamika, you mentioned it before we started the call. What should we be doing as special needs parents?
You should just be staying up to date. And no matter what you're doing, you keep the focus on your child. We cannot focus about school budgets. We cannot focus what's going on in legislative sessions. You get the information you need for your child about your child from the school, how they've done over their school year, over their calendar year of their IEP, and you make the focus in everything you do about your child.
And that's it. And if you
That's
guys have any questions, any concerns, or if you need help, she is an amazing advocate. So you guys should reach out. Personalized
it.
Learning Solutions. We're going to make sure we have her information in the description for this video, but feel free to reach out. She's on Facebook. You can check her out on her website. And
Yes.
you also mentioned that you're doing a talk on Monday as well. Is
Yes.
that open to the public for
Yes,
everybody?
open. That's open to the public. If you go to um, my website www.personalizedlearningforall and scroll down on the homepage, you'll see a flyer. It's a company called Consolidated Planning Group. They're a financial planning group, and they specialize in special ed trust and things like that. So they do a lot of webinars, lunchtime webinars. So I'm speaking on what we call summer slide and summer IEP tips.
Awesome.
And that's open. You can just register. You click on my website. You click the flyer to open up to the Zoom registration. And or if you, that's another good resource. You don't have to live in Texas to go to the webinars. You can just search Consolidated Planning Group in Sugar Land, Texas. It'll bring up their website, and you can look. And they have a link for events and webinars. And they do stuff all year, all summer. But they're usually at lunchtime, all between 12 and 1. It's usually 12 to 1 o'clock.
And I think you mentioned something really great as we wrap up is there are so many resources available to you. And even though you may be watching a video like this and we're in the state of Texas, it does not mean that there are not resources available to you that you can take access of or gain
Yes.
access to, like those webinars. It's free information, really
Mm-hmm.
good information. And then you just take that information and apply it to your child wherever you are.
Yes.
So thank you again so much for joining us for Advocacy Hour. It's always good to chat with you and just kind of get the latest and greatest, and also just making sure that parents know what you need to be doing as you go throughout your school year and
Yeah.
how to better advocate for your child.
Because you are the best
Thank you.
advocate for your child. Even if you hire an advocate, I don't take your place. I'm there to assist you and to help you understand the educational lingo and jargon and policies and procedures.
And that's important for you guys. So just know, like she said, you are the best advocate for your child. And so we will talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much, Amika. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye bye.